So because I've seen I've seen some really nice people, like, you just want this person to find someone, but sometimes we can be too overboard and too picky. Not that we're saying lower your standards, but what I'm saying is, the question is this person of God? Am I of God? So let's make it work. Things are not going to be perfect. You're not going to have, I'm just using as an example, Tom Cruise in his early years come off a helicopter and be like, Shabananaya?
Mission Impossible.
John chapter 10, is that your favorite verse? It's my favorite verse too. Let's talk. It's not going to happen like that. There's going to be differences, like Hercules even said. We've got Hepzibah joining us in the studio. Please take a seat, Hepzibah. You're actually joining us in the studios right now. So what we're gonna do, there she is. So we got different parts of the Love Talk, and exactly what Hercules spoke about, because he doesn't know the material we're gonna show you today. Exactly what he spoke about is what's gonna be covered today. So if you're single, and especially if you're in a relationship, you're gonna want to see this. It's gonna be hot stuff. Okay. Also, Shamika, thank you for joining us. Good to have you with us on the Breakfast Show for the first time. Also, wow, he's right. That's really, if we push aside the beautiful parts of being with someone. Kareen Dufus says good morning to you all. Good morning, Kareen. Top of the morning to you. And Tyler says taking notes. Yeah. So this next part's gonna be really powerful. So we're not even gonna take a break. We're gonna go into it because we've got quite a few things to cover today. So we got the video ready, mi amigo?
Yes.
All right, we're going in. There ain't no music break. There's the video break. Like, for you can catch your breath back. You're okay. All right. And then, guys, please send your questions, send your thoughts, send your ideas. Anything you want to share with us on the show, we've got the Breakfast Show What's Up line. All right. And literally, that would be great for us to connect. Okay. So we'll be right back in just a moment. Now listen to this piece from last week's Love Talk.
Because tonight we want to present to you two kinds of love. And I want you to focus on the love that is presented by God. Look what happened to Jacob. Genesis 29 verse 9 says, "Now, while he was still speaking with them, he was talking to some shepherds. Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess." And now picture the next verse. Try to, as I'm reading, as we're reading, try to imagine in your mind what was happening. Verse 10. "And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled a stone from the well's mouth so that she could water the sheep, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother." So he was talking to some shepherd. Then all of a sudden, from this side comes this woman with some sheep, Rachel. And Jacob, verse 11, Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative and that he was Rebekah's son. So he ran and told her father. Eventually, Jacob became so enamored with Rachel that he wanted to marry her, and he ended up working 14 years for free. Let me know when you find someone who's willing to work 14 years for free to marry you. Then you come and let me know, because this person is something else. He worked for 14 years for free to marry Rachel. But it was a disaster. It was a disaster. It was a disaster because he was obsessed with Rachel. Rachel, not so much with him. Rachel the Bible describes her as someone who was selfish, who thought about herself, who didn't really think about Jacob that much, stole her father's idols, putting everyone's life at risk. And for years, Jacob was thinking, obsessed with this person who wasn't really that bothered about him. And there was someone else, Leah, that he married first, not because he chose to, but because he was conned to marry her, that loved Jacob so much, had children for him, did everything for him, not for a month, not for a year, but for years. For years, Leah didn't think about herself. She did everything for Jacob, and Jacob would reject her, would not that he mistreated her, but you know, he only had eyes for Rachel. And here we see these two kinds of love. The love of Hollywood, and at that time there was no Hollywood, but picture this, you're talking to some shepherds, then you turn to this side, this woman, imagine the Israel wind blowing in her hair as she's coming to the well with some sheep. This is like a scene of a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
And he became starstruck for a person who didn't care much about him. This is the love of the world. And Jacob wanted something perfect. It was never perfect.
All right, guys. So that was the piece there from last week's Love Talk. And this is huge. This is a huge one. The reason why is because I believe our listeners, we all want the best, right? We want the best from God. Guys, we want the best. And what's been brought to us in this piece is that there's two loves. There's not just one love, there's two, right? Yeah. And when I think of the story of Jacob and when I think of Rebecca and Leah, I always saw Leah as like she's in the way, right? And Rebecca's like, the true love one. But hearing this side of things and also seeing how the scripture is, because I remember when I would meditate on that piece, and I would see how Leah was treated, but for some reason, because I saw Leah through the eyes of Jacob, not through the eyes of the scenario, right? Yeah. I didn't see, and when I was looking at the scenario and what was happening with Leah, I would always bounce back to seeing it through Jacob's eyes, and Jacob's eyes was already biased towards Rebecca. And was put in the meeting that Rebecca, the Israel wind, and then he's there crying out, he's like passionate and excited about Rebecca.
It's her. She's the one.
She's the one for me. Hey.
Nice.
And you look at the deception of Nabal, right? Swapping the sisters round, right? Yeah. But at the same time, it was like the justice of God still working. Yeah. Right? Because Leah, by the looks of it, Leah was a good woman. So it's just that there's two loves. We have our like, for example, when I was single, what did I want in my very, very, very immature state? Those of you who are British or faithfuls, you know that if I got converted, changed, became a servant of God, person of God, my thoughts were, I'm gonna marry a lady who's Asian, Chinese Asian, being assistant. I had how it's going to be, right? And because I'm in faith, by faith, anything anyone else would say to me would be like, you don't know, I'm in faith. Try and stop me, right? But I had my own picture. But then God really broke me and made me understand that it's not about what we see on the outside. It's about if the person is godly on the inside. Yeah. Because if the person, depending on the person's level, surrender to God, their nature changes. Yeah, they have their connection or their background in terms of which can impact them, right? In terms of their culture, is superseded, is rooted by a heavenly one, right? Yeah, exactly. Go on, you can say
exactly. The fact that the person can be of God is like the person has like a different spark. So for instance, I don't want to say this live, but there was someone in my branch that I was like really attracted to, and it's like although they were of God, it's like the characteristics, it kind of showed me it kind of showed me that the person wasn't for me in terms of like the attitude and like the way the person would like talk to people and stuff. And it's like although the person is of God, it's like God wants to give you someone that has like a different spark to the rest, basically.
That's an interesting one. Your thoughts on that, Hepzibah?
Now, I think what you said just a while ago about looking at the two characters, but like myself.
Sorry, Eddie, is that mic okay?
Like myself, you're actually biased because the story comes like poor Jacob. He's toiled all this time, and he was deceived. But as you said, God doesn't look. It does depend on the surrender of the person, and that reminded me straight away of David when Samuel was sent to find the king, and what his eyes saw was his brothers. Yeah. But God had a different
outlook. Yeah.
And so it was about David's character out there in the wilderness with the bears and with the fighting, and so it's the same. We can be biased because our eyes are the windows to the soul, and that can let us down in so many ways if we're not connected to the author of love.
Absolutely. We have our breakfast show talkers in there. Fina says, to be broken by God is the best thing anyone can go through. Not easy stage, but worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Because the
spot on Athena.
Isn't it? Right? And the thing about being broken is that there's less of you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where we're safe.
Yeah, you become jelly in God's hands, putty.
Yes.
Because you're pliable and, you're saying, okay, here I am. Yeah.
So like Phoenix was saying, let's not run away from being broken. And being broken, the process of being broken can come in different forms. And like she says, we might not like it, but submit. All right. Julie says, Robert, God had a different path for you. Absolutely. Absolutely. But let's go on to the next piece now and let's see where it takes us.
But this other person who loved Jacob, who never gave up on him, and one day Jacob, he was bound to Leah, but it took a while. Like in our case, like we said, we were happy, but we had disagreements, problems in the beginning. It wasn't perfect. And we see a lot of people, we're talking to people here who are of the faith. We have people who have this skewed, twisted version of what marriage, what love is, and then they think because they get married and things don't go well in the beginning, they think this is not of God. This is not meant to be. But maybe it's not that it's meant of God or that it's not of God. But maybe the problem is that when you do what we did in the beginning, that I thought, I never stopped to understand. I could have thought, hold on a second, why did Elena say that? Why did she say, is she beautiful? Does she have some kind of insecurity? I could have asked Elena, is there some kind? But my reaction was to be really angry, really upset. There were things that I did that she could have done the same. And she didn't do. Because the love that is wrong and never solves anything is the love that you think about your needs. I want this person to understand what I need. I want this person to understand where I'm coming from. I want this person to understand what makes me happy. I want this person to... You want the person to understand everything about you. But are you willing to understand everything about this person? Like Bishop Renato says, if your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, if that person was a book, would you be willing to know that book with your eyes closed without even having to open it? And the love that people don't want to have is the love that says, you know what, forget about what I want, forget about what I want you to understand about me. Let me understand everything about you.
Yeah, people have a distorted idea of love.
Because people think like this, if a relationship is of God, nothing goes wrong. So you subscribe to this idea of Jacob with Rachel, when you should be subscribing to the idea of Jacob with who? with Lena. So the thing of the wind blowing in the hair, the Hollywood thing, guys, that didn't work. For you to have an idea of my first date with Elena, how perfect it was. When I went to meet Elena in Portugal, I landed in Portugal, I lost my ticket, returned my airplane ticket. Our first date was her going to the airport with me looking for my ticket because I lost my ticket. That was our first date.
Yeah.
How unperfect was that?
And then we went to KFC.
Listen, the first time...
How romantic.
The first time I was thinking, man, I wanted to impress this girl. The first thing I'm doing is she sees that I lost my ticket. Maybe she thinks I'm irresponsible. It never happened to me. It was the first time. But anyway, we made a good thing out of a bad thing. So we went, couldn't get the ticket, but we solved the problem. The first few dates were a little bit awkward. I had someone who told me in my first date, have you kissed her yet? I said, no. He said, no, kiss her. I said, okay. So I went in for a kiss. Elena turned her face. Absolutely right.
Of course.
Absolutely right. But another unperfect thing.
Right.
We're giving these examples because it's very sad for us to see people who have potential to build a happy life, and they say, Bishop, I spoke to the person, there was no spark. But what spark? You want the Rachel, that doesn't work. You have to give the person time. Bishop, we got married, we're having problems. Join the club. Everybody who gets married in the beginning has problems. If someone says to you, we didn't have any problems, they're lying. There are problems. The love, this is the love that comes from God, is you have all these things and you persist. We're going to make this work. I have God, you have God, we're going to make this work.
All right, guys. So welcome back to your breakfast show. So that was the second part. And now, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. All right, because when I hear that, with a little backing track music, something nice. When I hear that, I think of how many people who are single. And they say, there's no one, no, there's no one in my branch, in their church. Okay. And, maybe the person has actually been and gone. Right? Because I remember with me, right? I remember what made me break my idea of I'm going to be the Apostle Paul, right? I don't need anyone. Get out, woman, with your emotions. Stay back, away from me. Then, okay, it'll be Chinese lady later on somewhere, never, if it ever does happen. It was basically, we had to prepare something. We had the millennium, so something for the millennium, so it was 2000, right? And we had to prepare something for the VYG. And so Pastor Bruno said, look, guys, sit in the service and then organize the thing. I'm like, no, it's not. I don't go to this meeting. I'll go and do something else. I'll go evangelize outside. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's like, no, just all of you, just sit in the meeting. All right, so we stayed in the meeting, and then what was said? It's like this. It says like this. It's like, maybe this person is close to you, but you do not see. It was like a knife going into my heart. I'm like, no, he's not speaking about me. It's not about me. Maybe everybody can see it, but you can't. It's not me. Damn my hard. Maybe this person is right for you, but you don't give them a chance. And as I thought about Nicola. And she was sitting right behind me. I think that day she was wearing dungarees.
Wow.
And she had braids like that time. And I was like, get out, Satan. Get out. Turn up.
Right behind you as well.
She was right, yeah, because we always did things together, all of us, right? There was a group of us.
Yeah.
And so from that day, I wasn't the same. And that day I started to notice her, right?
Yeah.
And we all started to get strong, but I saw her in a different, I started to notice things that I started to see her dedication for the work of God. I didn't tell her nothing, but I was observing her. Yeah. But how many times maybe the person has been close to them and the person has been and gone? Hebzibah.
This is, it's so strong because unless the author of love opens your eyes, you remain blind. The scales will have to fall for you to see.
Yeah.
Just like Paul.
Yeah, exactly. And that in the love life, it's so important because we do have a distortion about love. And I think for me personally, that's it. I thought, this is it. This is the one that's going to take me right away to eternity. But because he wasn't converted and I wasn't converted.
That's right.
Do you understand?
That's where the problem lies.
So I couldn't see a way out. I'm thinking, but this is not what I subscribed to. I did not subscribe. This is hurting. And so I didn't know how to fight that fight. And, so it wasn't all flowers and roses. And because of that, I prayed, but I didn't know how to pray through. I didn't know how to even change my reaction to his attitude. Yeah. So for me, that was painful. And so for people who are going through the same, and if they're not listening to, I was listening. I was there last week, and it's amazing the key things that you actually miss. Hearing it today, like, goodness gracious, where was I? I was there. So can you imagine how many people are actually attending weekly?
Yes.
Yeah.
And are actually missing the nuggets that's going to help them, because you just said that when you heard that word, ouch, 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 ouch. But there are a lot of people just going, oh. Yeah. And they leave and they just miss the nuggets. Yeah. And they do the same thing. And I was speaking to someone yesterday who, announced, I'm going to marry and all this. And then he got closer to this person. And there was such a distortion because she painted a certain way about her. But in my mind's eye, I thought he was the problem until I heard the story. So we're listening, but we really have to do the application. We really have to dig deep so the author of love can really remove the scales from our eyes, and that we can synchronize with him.
I love the sound of that. And Fina in the live chat says this, and this is echoing exactly what you just said and was said in the piece. I have God, you have God, we are going to make this work. Right? I have God, you have God, we are going to make this work. I've mentioned this on the Breakfast Show where, God put in my heart, I need to find somebody that loves God like I do. Now, I've always thought to myself, why did that come to mind? Isn't that a bit proud? Isn't that a proud statement? Do you get what I mean? I don't know, I'd be malicious against myself, but over time I understood, because I'm measuring myself up. I'm kind of seeing where am I at, because I can only hunt for what I am, right? Yeah. So I had become born of God, and because of that, there's certain fruits in my life, in my behavior, right? So that's what I'm looking for. If the person's not of God, I'm dead.
Literally. And the fact that, like when you become of God, it's like God shows you that the person that you liked in the beginning is not the person. For instance, the person that I was like really attracted to, like this was my crush basically.
Sing, young man.
Yes, live. Like the person was like my crush, but even from the beginning there was signs that this person is not the one, but my heart was like, no, it's her, I could change her. Lies.
So it was in the character, right, that you saw?
Character, and character is so important, because the person can look good, can be cute, etc.
Have a nice perfume.
Exactly. Right. But if the person's character is not good, it's like the person will become ugly. There will be issues.
There'll be signs,
problems.
Right? And you know what's interesting? Kamika says, and that's Kamika and Lozelles, I don't know what God is doing, but I was not expecting this today. I hear you, God. I pray you help me understand what you want me to learn. All right. She also says, it's so true, especially the youths. I was one of them that thought, I'm too young, but it would have helped me to avoid mistakes. Absolutely. And just to echo what was being said about character, I think I made a note here Oh gosh, when we start speaking, we go, isn't it? This whole thing. So we can be too superstitious, right? So because I've seen, I've seen some really nice people. Like, you just want this person to find someone, but sometimes we can be too overboard and too picky. Not that we're saying lower your standards, but what I'm saying is, the question is this person of God? Am I of God? So let's make it work. Things are not going to be perfect. You're not going to have, I'm just using as an example, Tom Cruise in his early years come off a helicopter and be like, Shabananaya,
Mission Impossible.
John chapter 10, is that your favorite verse? It's my favorite verse too. Let's talk. It's not going to happen like that. There's going to be differences, like Hercules even said, But before we continue, let's go into the next part. Let's keep it moving. All right, guys? And if you've got any comments, like Shamika has done and Fina has done, let's just please feel free to make your comments here. Let's go.
When you get married, you get to know your true self, okay? What you see in the mirror is not completely true. So when I got married, I found out how insecure I was, and I was like, where is this coming from? I always thought I was very, confident, knew what I wanted and everything, But then anything would make me feel insecure. So how did he show love towards me? He didn't say, you know what, this is over, I can't deal with this. The sensitive kind of man, I can't deal with this. Or woman, I don't think we are right for each other, or whatever. He helped me. Along the way, I'm sure he saw that there's a pattern here. I think and then he remembered for sure, because we spoke about this many times, about my upbringing. I wasn't raised, oh, you are so wonderful, my child. The opposite. So now I got married, and I want all the attention I can get, because, if he loves me, but hold on a second. He's a human being. He was actually listening to the conversation because the woman was being loud. It was nothing more than that. It was nothing. But with time, he showed love by being patient. And you see, love is an action. It's not an emotion. It's not an idea. You actually have to do something. You have to come out of where you are and cook a meal. You have to, like what I did, forgive your wife. She has issues. She's working on herself. Do you understand? And I feel his love through his actions. And this is how we grow old together. And we don't have this kind of arguments anymore. This was like the first year. When I look back, I'm thinking this is not the same person. Do you understand? This is love in action.
We can say,
real life.
We can say that love is doing what you don't like to do for that person.
Yeah.
Because that's what the Lord Jesus did. If you remember, when the Lord Jesus when he was about to go to the cross and he prayed, he said, Father, if possible, take away this cup. In other words, if possible, I don't want to go to the cross. Mm-hmm. But did he want to go? No. But he went because of who? Because he loved us. He didn't want to go. If you ask him, did he want to? He didn't want to go, but he went because he loved us. And this is love. Love is, you don't want to do something, but you do it with a smile on your face because you love that person.
Can I just give another example that maybe some of you will identify, will understand even more? A mother, you don't look at your child and say, I love you so much, and that's it. You don't care for her needs. You don't clothe your child. You don't buy things for your child. What do? You show love how? You protect your child. You comb her hair. You clothe your child. You hug your child. The child is making a scene in the shop because the child wants you to buy all the toys in the shop, and then you are patient because you understand, it's a child, she doesn't know how much it costs. This is love. Love is an action. It's not a movie.
And all this stuff that you see around, that you hear around, you hear what people want you to buy. So people say, oh, our marriage, everything was always great, everything was always... It's all a bunch of lies. The love that comes from God, you bear with the person's problems, the person's needs, the person's insecurity. Love is, like Elena said, is shown through actions. So sometimes you're the husband, you arrive home, you want to switch off and sleep, but your wife wants to talk to you. So you sitting down and listening to the person, to your wife, this is love. Mm-hmm. Or vice versa. You want to talk to your husband, but you see that he's tired. So you say, no, I'm going to talk to him tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Bishop, what about my needs, Rachel? Because that was Rachel.
Yeah.
Rachel was all about what? Her need. Bishop, my need. What about my happiness? Rachel. Leah never thought about this. Leah always thought, how can I show my love even more for him?
Oh wow, that was absolutely amazing. Look at that. Leah was, how can I show my love for him, right? Leah wanted to win Jacob's attention.
Yeah,
right?
It was all about, giving. Like, that was her spirit, just giving.
And God saw that.
Yeah.
God was making a difference between the two women, right?
Yeah.
So there we go again. And thank you, Shamika, for joining us this morning. I hope you have a very good school run. But so we had quite a few things there. Love is an action, not an emotion. So Hollywood paints it as this whole passionate, I can't wait to connect my face with your face, and that kind of stuff, enthralled passion. No, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And God gives us desires, don't get me wrong, but we're talking about a sustained and long-lasting relationship. And here's where it gets interesting. And I just want to backtrack to something that was previously said. When we're looking at the character, right? Because we're dealing with the two different types of love. We've got the Hollywood love, and then got the love that comes from God, which is about giving. I know Heps is going to elaborate on that. Helena on the date turned her face, right? So Helena had standards. Helena wasn't, I am given to you. Come. Do you got me? And at the same time, Helena was sober, right? To kind of work with him. Because it was you're a heretic, be gone, Satan. No, because now we're hearing a story that Pastor James, or Bishop James now, but he had some advice, right? Yeah. I remember I got given advice when I was dating, and I was just like, go and give her a kiss, from a servant of God. I don't know if they'll remember, but it was that kind of thing, but with me, I kind of worked my way to it. But Pastor James was like, now is the time, right? But they still work together. It was a dance. I was speaking to Joseph one time, and we're speaking about the whole relationship. Even when you're married, it's a dance of understanding, of working with each other. It's a dance, right? Because no one is perfect. It's a dance. There are situations where it's the character. You could see there are red flags in the character. Like if the person keeps on lying. Red flag, right?
I'm going to go back to where Miss Helena said that when you're in a relationship, it reveals your true self.
Victoria just messaged something on that as well.
Yeah,
you guys are in sync.
and when the author of love, when you're connected to the author of love, and he changes you in all aspects of your relationships.
Yeah.
So in readiness to meet the one, it's how you deal with the ones that you're around already.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? And so that counts for so much, because if you're in a room let me give you an example of when I'm at home before conversion and when I was married. I was quiet, and I didn't have that get up and go, but as soon as I got on the phone to my friend, it's like, But when I was at home with him, it was a different, but I could be the same, but I didn't know how to be the same. Do you know what I mean? But now that, I've met the author of love, that, like you said, that before you were like, this is me. But this is when the author of love comes in, your relationships are so much more valued.
Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
That they're valued. And so you're in preparation to be that one. Like people say, will you marry again? I said, of course I'll marry again, because the author of love is inside of me. I want to share that. So that's important to realize that all relationships, whether daughter to mother, friend, it's how you treat that person, because you're getting ready for that one.
And some people can try and despise the relationship with family members because their family members can be difficult.
Yeah.
They try to look like their dirty little secret. I'm sorry to use that term, forgive me, but you get the idea. Just try to be like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm too much in faith, right? But that is actually in preparation for something greater. How many times have I experienced things because I had to fight for my mum? I had to fight for her to come to Jesus. That I learned patience, that I learned that you might not see what you want straight away and you had to wait. These all translated in the way I dealt with my wife. My expectations were higher, especially because I was new, I didn't get all the information, and I expect a perfect object straight away. But with time, understanding that, dealing with the issues in my family, with my brother, my older brother, Victoria says, okay, we have Fina. Okay, it's kicking off in live chat. Just to get in live chat quickly before we go to our next piece. Fina says, I learned this last week that we need to see love in the shape of a pizza. The pizza has many slices that we take time to eat them slowly and softly. True that. Victoria says, for you to know your true self, you get in a relationship and all this insecurity comes out like a tornado. But many times we just to ignore and just the reaction of human nature. So we get into a relationship and really is just showing our true self. Things that we still need to work on, right? And that's what she's saying. Fina goes on to say, passion, feelings, one slice from the pizza, that if one eat it faster, they can choke as if they eat it faster. This made me think deep. Strong things. Victoria says, I am a human being, so I am bound to feel this way. But that is just the way of preparing a storm in your marriage, while you might not even know how to swim to rescue your relationship. Yeah, absolutely. So like what you're saying, Hepzibah, we are working ourselves in secret with the relationships of those who are around us. That's showing who we really are, and we understand it as an investment for who God is preparing me for in the future. Maybe the way we're dealing with people, we don't have patience for people, why God can't trust us with his son or his daughter. Maybe our standards are not quite there yet. Helena turned her face when he tried to kiss her. Helena was keeping her standards, right? Pastor James at the time acknowledged that and respected that, but yet Miss Helena didn't judge him, all right? Because she's seen enough to know that it's not his character, and we knew there was a lot more going on. Lots of nuggets here. Let's go to the next piece.